Hey everyone, welcome to session 2 of the 7-Figure Cycle. Thanks for joining us here today. We've got a lot to get through. We're going to dive right into it. And we're going to recap on the same proverb, which is give a man to fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And that's what we're doing here. We're doing both of them for you. So just before we hit the record button and started this workshop, we did see lots of feedback coming in. People letting us know that they've set up Amazon accounts, they've got EIN numbers, they're getting all these things done. That is fantastic. That's really how you're going to get the best out of this, is just taking those small steps forward each week, okay? And we'll be there with you every step of the way. Here is the agenda today. We're going to be talking about finding suppliers. And what the heck is a supplier anyway? What do we mean by that? Wholesalers, distributors. We're going to be talking about the different models so that you can understand completely how this all works. And then we're going to talk about where to find suppliers, what you can say to them, common issues that we see from time to time, how to resolve them, and then what's in the training for you. So we've got scripts, supplier resources, over-the-shoulder training videos, and much, much more. So with that said, I think we're going to hand it over to Chris to start with, and then Todd is going to continue on, and Steve and I are going to be answering questions and helping out behind the scenes. If we don't get to your question, don't worry about it. We will be taking some Q&A at the end, and as always, we are going to make sure you get your questions answered one way or another after the call through the support desk. We're going to make sure you get your answer. Okay, so Chris, you there, buddy?
I am good to go, Aiden. Thank you very much. Let me advance the slide. Can we, let's see, make sure I'm going the right place. Okay, can everybody see the next one? Did you see that, Aiden? We moved to wholesaler distributor.
Yeah, I think you skipped the slide.
Yeah, back up a slide, Chris.
So, thank you very much, guys. Little delay. Sorry about that. Wholesaler distributor. Thank you. Okay. Todd has mentioned it. Action takers. Aiden just mentioned it. The teach a person how to fish. That's the whole vibe for today. As you know, we're going to move into a give a person a fish. The database of suppliers that already exists, then be given a product. All those things are critically important for your success for sure. But our model is, and what we know from doing this in the past with so many successful students, is understanding the fundamentals of the process. That's critically important, because just give a child a bike and say, go. It's kind of confusing. Got to learn a little bit about balance and the pedals and what makes it go, right? So that's really what we want to do here. We want to talk about wholesalers, distributors. And the most common question that comes up is this: why don't these people just sell directly on Amazon, right? Why doesn't a wholesaler just do that? Why doesn't this model fall apart? There's a lot of reasons for that. One is there's super thin margins for a distributor. Just the way they work, their business is built on super high volume, low margin. It's also expensive for them to sell to one-off customers. A one-off is just too much for someone to walk up and say, here's a widget. They just need to do volume. That is their business. Same with manufacturers. And I'm going to illustrate that in some photos so it makes a lot of sense. Multiple stops to multiple retailers, that's kind of a standard model, as opposed to shipping volume from a warehouse for the distributor. That's what they do. And then the retailers, us, we fill the gap between the wholesaler and the consumer, okay? But wait a minute, we're one-off, right? We're selling the one-offs. Well, no. There's the magic of, one, the buying in some volume, and two, us as what we become is we start to buy bulk. We have buying power as a group. And then you start to buy not just one. We're testing things, sure. But when you start to roll, you're buying dozens to hundreds to 1,000 units a month just of one SKU. So that's why there's a benefit to us to buy from the distributors, and the wholesalers or distributors don't go direct. Mass production fundamentally has changed retail sales. I'll show you some images that make sense. It's just not their model. Now, this is kind of a funny example, but I want to show you with beer. It sounds kind of funny, but the pictures are great because there's so many different colors of packages. You can see how many different products are in a retail store versus the manufacturer. So when we're talking about beer, for example, you have the producer, the manufacturer, the brewer. That goes to a distributor. We're going to be buying from the distributors. We are the retailers in that case, or in to continue the analogy of the beer, bars, liquor stores, grocers, that kind of thing. And then it goes to the end customer, you or our customers, the person that's going to buy the one single unit, the one single beer at the bar, the one single beer at the supermarket. Here's a producer. Notice something interesting. Massive amounts of stuff there, right? It's just nothing but their thing. We make this type of beer. That's it. And there's a whole boatload of it. Okay, that's the producer. You see this. Maybe it's not kegs, maybe it's in the bottles, but all you see from in the distance there, and if you look up close in that image, it goes that warehouse goes way back. So that's nothing but that kind of stuff. It's just that 6-pack of beer. I think that might be Guinness actually. So that's the manufacturer. They do what they do. That's all. Now it goes to that distributor. Like I said, look at these cool colors. There are a whole bunch of different. That's a huge warehouse, just about as big as the previous photo, but there's lots of different SKUs there. They have as much stuff as a whole, but they have a lot lower number of each of those SKUs. That's the distributor. Their model is great. We'll get a lot of stuff from a whole bunch of different manufacturers. We don't want to buy, that's probably, that yellow thing in the front there is probably 3 or 4 pallets plus worth of stuff. We're not buying in that kind of volume, but we'll buy some volume. That's the distributor model. And then let's go to the retail, kind of the Amazon stuff, right? Well, that's this. Look at all the different SKUs again, but now we're talking about a more manageable number. I want to buy a 12-pack. I want to buy a beer. That's the model in photos, okay? That gives you an idea of what things look like from the manufacturer, distributor, retailer, and then end customer. This is us. We're going to buy in bulk, and this retailer bought bulk, but it's really only on the far left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flats of that type of beer. That's what we're doing. We're buying 7, 10, 15, 2 weeks at a time. We send it to Amazon, we sell it, and then we re-up. That's the model, okay? So hopefully that sheds some light for you guys onto the bigger picture of how things work. And what we're going to talk about today is just that. How do we contact these suppliers? Todd is phenomenal at this, and we've got some great resources we'll share at the end when we circle back, but we're going to talk about how to contact these folks, the teach you how to fish thing. Medical supply, Todd can expound upon this one. It's similar thing when we're talking about suppliers. Even in their model, it's different. They don't go direct to retail, but they may have a model. In this case, let's call it Model X. This supplier, that was actually very close to Todd, sold directly to hospitals and retirement communities, and that's it. That was their model. They sell wholesale to these folks. Todd's question was, well, great, you sell wholesale. I want to buy, and can I buy from you? And then all of a sudden that person said, sure, why not? We are a distributor. We sell a bunch of things, and if you can run that list through the magic tool that you say you have, and you find winning products, go for it. It's been a very profitable distributor. So those kind of things can even change for us. When we're talking about a distributor, that's the point. They distribute stuff. They have products to sell. And Todd's going to share that, exactly why they should be talking to us and how to kind of navigate that conversation and where maybe we have some trip-ups, hiccups. We're going to deal with, you may find some huge, really high volume suppliers. They may have 50,000 plus SKUs. That is what we would consider huge, big, really large supplier. Might have a medium volume too. I'd say, and these numbers they're not perfect, but they're pretty dang close for our purposes of numbers you're going to see when you're talking with suppliers and distributors, wholesalers. There's that middle range, about 10,000 SKUs or so, and then you may have some small, kind of lower volume, maybe a very niche few brands in a very specific category. They may have 1,000 SKUs or even less. They may have, a couple hundred. Any and all of those types of wholesalers work. From big to small, we're simply doing one thing. Let me see all of your stuff. Let me run it through the magic Profit Hunter tool. Let me buy the winners, and let me sell them on Amazon. Full stop. Not much more to it than that. So without further ado, let's kick it over to Todd, who's going to talk to you about that process, how to find these folks, what to say to them, things that we've seen in the past that have kind of fallen down, and we want to help you guys get out there and win with this as fast as we can. So Todd, are you ready to go?
Sure, you bet. I'm born ready. All right. So we want to talk a little bit tonight about the best way to find wholesale distributors for yourself, okay? And again, this doesn't matter where you're located. The process is the same. In the United States, I mean, the biggest thing is the time difference, but the bottom line is this model works identical for everybody, irrespective of location. Now, there's lots of different ways to find these wholesale distributors. We're going to start with what we found to be the best and the quickest way, and we're going to do some deep diving here and some specific examples and walk you through, how to do this, right? There's lots of ways to do it, but what we're going to concentrate on tonight are trade association member directories and trade show exhibitor directories, how to deal specifically with the manufacturers, and going to specific websites. So first off, let's talk about trade associations, all right? First of all, you guys should only be working off of the list of ungated Amazon categories. We're going to show you what those are in a second, okay? We're going to use Google to find trade associations, not the wholesale distributors, at least not yet. You want to deal with the trade associations. We're going to show you how to locate their member directory and how to start making a list of the companies to contact and how to exactly contact them, the questions to ask, and how to take control of the conversation so that you come off as an expert and not the first time new person, first phone call, right, to a wholesale distributor. We're going to talk about opening the accounts with them and obtaining the inventory list. All right, so first off, the Amazon categories. Understand that there's more than 20 open categories for selling on Amazon. Require absolutely no authorization whatsoever, no specific permission is required, and only a couple of them have, called additional guidelines. So you don't have to worry about selling in any other category right now except an open one. Some of the open ones. Let's first talk about what it means for a category that requires approval, all right? Sometimes you have to get specific permission from Amazon to sell in a category that requires approval. You have to first have that professional selling plan, which is the $39.99 a month plan, okay? So that you don't even have a chance of getting into a category that requires approval unless you have that pro selling plan. And then they're going to still have some limits in place because what they're trying to do is make sure that the buyers can have confidence. And I'll give you a perfect example. Can you imagine what it would be like from Amazon's position with respect to customer experience and customer service if they let anybody sell jewelry? Oh my gosh. How about fine art? Can you imagine? Can you just imagine the fraud? I mean, and just the customer service issues if Amazon let anybody sell, fine art and jewelry alone, okay? So that's why a lot of these, some of these categories require approval. We're going to deal with categories that require no approval, all right? Now, here's some categories that require no approval. Believe it or not, accessories for Amazon devices does not require approval. So if you want to sell a cover for a Kindle or a power supply, if you find a distributor that deals with Kindle accessories, you can for sure sell them, okay? Baby products, absolutely no approval required except baby clothing, okay? So feel free to go out and get established with wholesale distributors that sell baby products. Just stay away from the clothes. Believe it or not, beauty is wide open. Now, this did used to be a restricted category for a long time. Now, wide open. Business products, I mean, that's a whole list of things. We'll walk into a Staples or an Office Depot, right, and look around and see all of the different SKUs that they have. And again, just real quick, I saw a few people still asking what a SKU was. That just means a specific product. When we say SKU, we mean product, okay? So when you walk into an Office Depot and you look around and you see all those products, every product has a SKU, okay? Camera and photo, wide open, even cell phones, all right? Hit the button too much. There's electronics where you can sell accessories or even the audio, video, even computers, no approval required. Consumer electronics like TVs, CD players, GPSs, no approval required. Health and personal care, one of my favorites. The first aid, the nutrition stuff, no approval required. And to go back to what Chris was talking about earlier about this one medical distributor we work with, it's kind of a long story, but it's kind of funny too, because I accidentally called the wrong place. All right. A friend of mine had said, "Hey, I talked to this medical distributor, and they want to talk to you about you selling their products online." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I somehow lost the information. So I remembered what city he said they were in. It was the city right next to where my warehouse was. I called up, didn't know who I was supposed to talk to, ended up talking to the senior vice president of the place. He had no idea what I was talking about, but the bottom line to him, I said, was, "Well, look, do you want me to sell your guys' stuff online?" Because at that point, they were just dealing with insurance companies and government contracts for like prisons and government hospitals and things like that. He said, "Sure, come on in and talk to me." So I went in and talked to him and told him, I was an online distributor. I sold stuff online. I wanted to sell their stuff, and they said, "You know what? That sounds like a good thing. Let's do that." And so it's so cool. They gave me a list of all their inventory. We do exactly what we're talking about, that you guys are going to do. And we started selling medical products, branded medical products. Quick Kimberly Clark, every name you can think of, these guys had contacts with. They're just absolutely huge. So in any event, wide open category, right? And then one of my favorites, oh boy, home and garden. You're talking about, look at all this stuff under home and garden, kitchen stuff. And just when you think kitchen, oh my gosh, the categories just go on and on that are all open, no approval required, right? And again, pet supplies, bedding, bath stuff, craft stuff, hobby stuff, it's all under home and garden. Patio, lawn garden, pool supplies, it's just crazy. All wide open, no approval required. Even musical instruments, I think that's kind of cool. Then we go into, oh my gosh, now we can go into office products. Like I said, whether it's office supplies or office furniture or calculators or whatever, right? All the outdoor stuff, completely no approval required. Sporting goods, tools, everything to do with home improvement. Even toys and games, like board games, no approval required. Now, with that one, come fourth quarter, right, because everybody wants to sell toys and games, right, there's some holiday restrictions. And all that means is they want to make sure that had so many sales, prior to fourth quarter. I think it's like 20. I mean, they're not even high bars, but that's why that says possible holiday restriction. And you can even sell video games and game consoles, right? Now, some specific products might require approval in that category, but it's wide open. There's no approval for the category itself. Okay? All right. Now, look at this chart. What I want you to take away from this chart here, because it's graphing several different kinds of sellers. Sellers, above $1 million and, just private label sellers. But ignore that. What I want you to notice that the people that are selling more than $1 million a year on Amazon, look at the categories they're in. Home and kitchen, right? Not books. Only 2% of sellers doing $1 million a year or more are selling books. Home and kitchen, they're in the toys and games, they're in the health, they're in the beauty, they're in electronics, they're in sports and outdoors. And what do every one of those categories have in common? They require no approval, all right? So it goes back to what I always say. If you want to make $1 million a year, do what the guys making $1 million a year are doing. Home and kitchen, toys and games, health, beauty, electronics, sports, and outdoors, right? Okay, and look at here. Here's the average profit markup, right? This is something also called margin, right? Margin, return on investment, they're different calculations. But the bottom line here is the majority of these people selling in these categories are getting margins of 10 to 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 100%, right? The vast majority of that graph is high margin stuff, right? So a lot of people are out there doing it. We're going to show you how to do it. This is just to show you this is accurate. I mean, we didn't make these numbers up. A lot of these numbers have come from a really big company that manages PPC called Feedvisor, okay? So this is what you guys are going to get a slice of. It's real. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're going to go in and get our piece, all right? So are you guys. Okay, now let's do a quick walkthrough. We're basically going to start from square one, and we're going to say we want to sell baby products, all right? So the high-level view is we're going to Google for trade associations, we're going to look for member directories, and then we're going to go and look for some trade shows, and we're going to get something called exhibitor directories, all right? Now, Google baby product trade association, right? And what are we looking for? We're looking for just a trade association. Now, you might have to pop into more than one, because believe it or not, there's a bunch of trade associations for these different niche categories, okay? So we're going to go to the Juvenile Product Manufacturers Association, the JPMA, right? So we go to the JPMA site, and what are we looking for? We're looking for anything that indicates to us that they can that we can get access to their member directory. And right under the first drop down, there's a link there that says JPMA members, okay? Now remember, we're teaching you to fish here. What I am showing you works with any subcategory. And not only that, but understand, again, this is one trade association out of baby products. There's literally hundreds that you'll be able to do this for, okay? All right, so now we know that we see a link at JPMA members. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, right? That takes us to, guess what? The member directory. It's right there. Now, this specific trade association has 334 members, okay? This one, I would say then, is kind of a smaller one, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, okay, because you can do this with any trade association, all right? So now we know where the member directory is, and we're going to come back to that in a second. But now let's go and look for some baby products trade shows, all right? We already have a member directory. Now we're going to go ahead and get the second arrow in our quiver and find a trade show, okay? Because we're looking for the exhibitors list, all right? And armed with both of those, then we're going to be ready to get some work. And Google, by the way, is great for finding trade shows. There isn't what I would call an inauthentic trade show, okay? Most of the big trade shows are, in fact, great trade shows, all right? And sometimes you can even Google something along the lines of, like, largest baby product trade shows or even best baby products trade shows, and you should come up with, you know, the handful of the real big ones, okay? And we found here, actually, the JPMA, under one of their other categories, you know, had events, right? And JPMA has their own trade show, like most associations do, okay? So once you go to one of the trade show websites that you find through Google, right? And you're going to be looking for their exhibitor list. So now, sometimes it's under, you know, attendee resources or even exhibitor resources sometimes. But if you just go through a couple of the top-level menus, you'll eventually see something that tells you this is the exhibitor list. Sometimes that's exactly what it's called, list of exhibitors, exhibitor list. Here it's called Meet Our Exhibitors, okay? So get that idea that that's what you're looking for. So we click on that link, and what does it do? Wow, gives us a directory or a list. In this specific case, it comes up with a list. Lists are a little harder to work with, but still it's no big deal, okay? And when I show you exactly what we're going to be doing, you'll understand. Directories are usually a little better because it has clickable links. But it doesn't matter if it's a list or a directory, right? Now, understand, what we really have in front of you now are the resources that you need to get to the people with the products that you want to sell. You do not have to attend these trade shows. You do not physically have to go to them. You just have to be able to get online from anywhere in the world and do exactly what I've just shown you so far, okay? And let's take it another step, for example. I think this Next one here. Yeah, this is I believe this is a toy trade show, all right? And all I want you to understand is how massive these trade shows can be, okay? This one is in New York, and it covers 4 levels, I think, 4 or 5 levels of meeting rooms, and it's just unbelievable. So I pulled up, this one actually had a directory. This toy trade show had a directory that I pulled up so you can see what that looks like, okay? So you'll notice that the ones that like have directories will also have, as you can see at the top, like a search box, okay? It says keyword up there, all right? So a lot of times what I'll do if I want to, like, let's say just like get right to the distributors, right, is I'll go ahead and type distributor in that box. And all of a sudden, guess what comes up? Yeah, the distributors, okay? So it's actually, pretty straightforward. Okay, so whether you're working with a directory like this or off of a list that you found, from a trade association or another trade show, this is what you do, okay? A lot of times, I'll just start right at the top, okay? Now again, and here's where, gosh, I don't want to go down, but for those of you that can imagine this is the kind of work that when you're ready, you're going to be able to instantly outsource because it's so straightforward, okay? Matter of fact, some of the best ways to make money when you actually get involved with them are pretty darn straightforward, like this one, okay? So at the top of the list there, what's it say? ACD Distribution LLC. And I'm like, okay, let me go to these guys' website. And again, because this is a directory, all you have to do literally, is click on the link, okay? So we click on the link and we go to their website, all right? Now, ACD Distribution, as it turns out, has been around since 1993, has been a leading distributor in the toy and hobby gaming industry, all right? They supply retailers, people like us, with products from over 350 of the industry's top publishers and manufacturers. They have over 15,000 unique products, from the classic board games all the way through the hottest new releases. And this was the very first one off of a very long list, all right? So this is this still blows my mind that we can find these guys that fast. Everybody, raise your hand if you've ever heard of ACD Distribution before, right? No hands raised. I'm absolutely shocked. No hands raised, okay? Because you guys have never been doing this before. Yeah, all hands stayed down. All right, now, here's the other cool thing. Look at what the arrow's pointing at. What does that say? It says open an account, right? So literally, you can go and open an account with these guys without calling them, without attending a trade show, without doing anything, all right? And this is in any niche. Oh my gosh, it just blows my mind how many opportunities are out there. We just literally Googled one category, brought up one trade show, went to one trade show exhibitor list, started with the first one in the list, and look at what we have. We have a large distributor with 15,000 unique products, okay? And to become a customer, they have a customer application that you'll fill out. Now, notice they have one that says international. Even if you guys are international, that's not the one you want to fill out, okay? Because that's the one they're thinking they're going to be exporting products, and they're not. All of the products are going to stay inside the United States to work with on the .com, okay, the Amazon.com. So you want the retail customer application, the first one, right? And as far as filling out that application goes, like I say, I keep it as simple as possible. I let them know I'm paying credit card up front. Boom, send it over to them. Has the email right there, applications at acdd.com, okay? They make ordering easy. They have their own ordering system. And notice what it says here. Okay, I want you guys to really understand, all right? These guys want to do business with you. What does it say right on this page? If ordering online is not your thing, you can also order by phone, fax, or email. And if that's not good enough, your personal sales rep will be happy to take the order from you. So literally, you can call up your sales rep and say, hey, Joe, I got 97 items ready. I'm going to rattle them off one at a time. He's going to say, go right ahead. Okay? So this is how you have to get your mindset wrapped around what your position in this distribution cycle is. You're one of the most important links to these guys. And no, they don't want trade references. So, Andrea, here's why they don't want trade references. You're paying up front. The people that want trade references, right, the only reason anybody would want trade references is if you're asking for terms. And what terms are is you want time to pay them. You're like, hey, sell me $10,000 worth of stuff and give me 30 days to pay. Well, yeah, then they're going to want some trade references, right? Matter of fact, this is why I tell all of these wholesale distributors that I just want to pay upfront with a credit card, because the first thing that goes through their mind is, oh, this guy's legitimate, right? If he's paying us up front, he's one of the good guys, okay? Then they don't have to worry about who I am much past that, right? Okay, now, my other experiences that I want to share with you, just real briefly with distribution companies, is that after I've been paying upfront, for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 orders, I'd say half the time, they automatically open me up on terms. I have no idea why they do this. I don't go into a lot of detail with them. Just all of a sudden, my sales rep says, oh, accounting, you made like 4 orders, accounting opened you up. You guys now have 15-day terms or 30-day terms or 45-day terms. And I'm like, oh, really? They go, yeah. And I'm like, well, at the end of the terms, can I pay the bill with my credit card? And they're like, sure. So can you imagine how that starts to open up your cash flow, right? You're being able to leverage dollars a lot better that way. Okay, so let's get back on track here. I'm famous for my rabbit holes, but in any event, I just love talking about this stuff. And by the time we get through all of this training, you guys will be sick of my stories. All right, so what I want to specifically mention here is manufacturers. All right, you're going to find, especially at trade shows, a metric load of manufacturers. All right. Now, while distributors generally won't have minimums, right? Manufacturers, they have a couple of ways to limit who they're going to deal with. One is minimums, and the other is pricing. All right. And we're going to talk about that. But what I want to mention right now about manufacturers, okay, is while you may never buy direct from this manufacturer, but what we're looking for are the really good distributors, right? So when you find a manufacturer, since they normally always have a website because they're trying to get their brand recognized, because they always have a way for you to contact them easily, like toll-free numbers, live chat, contact forms. All right, and usually a lot of them will sell even just single products. All right, what you want to do with manufacturers, and get used to doing this a lot, okay, is you want to make contact with them and ask them one simple question, okay? And here's that question: where can I buy your stuff? I am a online distribution company, and I want to know what distributors carry your stuff. And what is that manufacturer going to do? They're going to give you a list of every distributor that is carrying their brand so that you can then figure out which one you want to deal with. So this is like the cheat sheet way. This is the ninja trick to finding huge wholesale distributors. You simply ask the manufacturer who's distributing their stuff. So then they give you the list of the distributors,
hey, Todd.
Right? Yeah.
Hey, Todd, just want to jump in there 1 second. You gave me an idea that I wanted to share. When you're dealing with distributors, manufacturers, suppliers, these guys don't know if you are just getting started or if you've already got a multi-million-dollar business. So I mean, you don't have to tell them, and you certainly shouldn't tell them you're just getting started. You want them to believe that you've already got this up and running. You do millions of dollars a year. You've got an online. You've got an e-commerce company, right? That's what you want them to think. So keep that in mind. And I mean, you can also make mention that you've got your own warehouse and distribution center, and obviously these are things that we're bringing to the table for you, but you can still talk about them as if they're your own. I mean, you can say that you've got a distribution center warehouse set up in in North Carolina or whatever. So just keep that in mind when you are talking to the different manufacturers and distributors. And we are getting lots of good questions, which we are flagging. So if we don't answer your question right now, we've flagged it and we're going to get it at the end. Anyway, sorry about that, Todd. Just wanted to jump in for a second.
No, that's no worries there. And in 2 slides, I'm going to go through exactly how to make those distributors realize that you do know what you're doing, okay? So whether it's your very first call or your 100th call, or whether you've been in business 1 day or 10 years, you're going to come off as a pro, all right, when we're done here in a couple of slides, all right? So now you now have all of the distributors that these manufacturers are telling you, yeah, that's who we work with, right? So you now have the keys to the kingdom to be able to contact these brand name distributors. And it's kind of cool because, along the lines of what Aiden was saying, it's really mindset from you guys, all right? If you sound like a scared little boy or a scared little girl, guess how you come off to the person on the other side of the phone? Yeah, as a scared little boy or a scared little girl, all right? So let's say I called Procter and Gamble, right, some huge manufacturer, because I want to sell their Q-tips, right? So I'm like, hey, I understand you guys manufacture Q-tips. Who do you distribute your Q-tips through? Because I want to buy from the distributor, and so they'll give you a list of 10 distributors. So you call the first one, and what do you say? What's the very first thing out of your mouth? Procter and Gamble suggested that I contact you to set up a wholesale account. Now, just roll that around in your mouth a little bit, right? And just think about it, right? And when you're saying, I got your name from Procter and Gamble, or Procter and Gamble suggested I contact you, do you sound like a scared little boy or a scared little girl that's never done this before? Or do you sound like somebody worth listening to? All right? Now, here, the whole idea, all right, is to be in control, all right? To have some self-confidence, not to act like they're doing you the favor, because I'm telling you right now, you're doing them the favor, all right? So act like you're doing them the favor, get that in your mind, and get ready to take control and ask questions like this, all right? Hey, I want to place an order. Who do I talk to about opening up an account? Right? Now, does that just slap them in the face with what you're all about, or what? Right? I want to place an order. Who do I talk to about opening up an account? Right? And let's say they ask you a question, right? I always come back with, well, we're going to get to that in a second, but let me ask you this. That is, and you know what? And sometimes I've said that 10 times in a conversation because I want to let them know a couple of things. I want them to understand I'm doing them the favor. I'm the customer, right? I'm going to be their customer, right? And I'm going to be a good customer. So I'm not going to let them take control. I'm not going to stop and answer their question. Do not fall into that. I'm not even going to call it a trap. Just stay in control, right? So so you call up and say, hey, yeah, Procter and Gamble suggested I contact you to purchase some products. So I'd like to place an order. Who do I talk to about opening up an account? All right, so let's just say they come back with, well, how long have you been in business, right? Which they never do, but I know everybody out there thinks they do, right? So let's say they say that. Well, how long have you been in business, right? Third bullet point. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Let me ask you this, right? And then you go into this list of questions I'm going to give you. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to answer your question. And after you do this, a few times, they forget about the questions they even asked you in the beginning. Why? Because they're all qualifying questions. They're all qualifiers. If by you taking control of the conversation and asking the proper questions, guess what you've automatically done in their mind? You've qualified yourself, right? So by the time you're done leading the process of opening you an account, they already know you're the guy they want to deal with to open up an account. All right? So here's some questions that you guys want to ask. If I give you a PO today, when will my order ship? All right? So what's a PO? PO is a purchase order. And a purchase order is a fancy way of saying, here's a list of the stuff I want to buy. So if I give you a list of stuff that I want to buy today, when will my order ship? Now, they might ask you, they might need to know, well, where are you located? All right, well, that's a legitimate question. Don't block them on that because they might have more than one warehouse, right? It's a legitimate question. So you can say Michigan or you can say North Carolina or wherever you have your U.S. entity set up, if you're U.S. based or you're international with a U.S. entity or whatever prep facility, you're working with to have your stuff sent for, and these kinds of things, they're not looking for a way not to open you. They're looking for the best way to open you. Okay, that in my mind is one of the few legitimate questions I let them ask me because they may have a specific sales rep by territory. So I'm okay with where you located, right? But if I give you a PO today, when will my order ship? And they get to their they just give me a question back with like, well, tell me a bit about your business. I'll say, well, we'll get to that in a second. But again, if I give you a PO today, when will my order ship? All right, then they're going to give you an answer. They might say, well, generally 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours, okay? And then they're going to turn around and they're going to ask you maybe another question. And they're going to come back and say, but can you tell me a little bit about your business? And you can say, yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute. I'm not done deciding if I want to do business with you guys yet. So let me ask, where is your distribution warehouse located? And they might say, oh, well, Ohio. So what kind of business are you guys again? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but let me ask you this. Can I pay you up front with a credit card? I don't need terms. Is it okay if I use my credit card up front? And then what you're going to find is they're just going to start answering your questions and waiting for your next question, okay? They're just going to stop asking questions, right? So then the next big thing I want to know generally, and I didn't put it on the slide, just make a note of this, is how many SKUs do you guys have, okay? How many SKUs do you guys have? And what this is, I just saw this comment. It seems shady for me to keep avoiding their questions. Stop thinking like that, all right? There's nothing shady up this. You guys got to get the right mental attitude, okay? What is shady about taking control of a conversation to get answers to your question, right? You guys, you're in control here. They want your business. You're important to them. You're not doing anything shady, are you? Of course not. You want to buy stuff. So you got to get that mind straight, okay? Be in control, okay?
You've also got to remember you're just talking to another human being on the other end of a telephone, right? And they could just be, a cog in the machine. So we're telling you to do this stuff because we know it works. So don't second guess it. Just do exactly as we say, and you're going to get the results. So, guys, give us some feedback in the question box. I think this information is amazing, and I think it'd be really good just to get some feedback on that now. Let us know how we're going at a good pace. I think you're doing a great job there, Todd. So, lots. Wow, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
All right. So, again, what you're really working towards is this last question, right? Do you guys have any sort of file, spreadsheet, FTP download site, database, anything that has everything that you sell that would have my cost and your part number, your SKU, along with how many you have available, so I can import them into my purchase order system. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, what purchase order system? Well, your purchase order system is called Profit Hunter, all right? And this is the best way that I've found to ask them for their entire inventory list before I've even opened an account, right? Because how can I possibly place an order if I don't know what to order, right? So basically, I get off the phone with these guys, and I have access to their inventory file generally more times than not before I've ever ordered anything. Now, I'm seeing a lot of questions. I've seen this question at least 10 times roll through the chat box. Can we do a live over-the-shoulder phone call for you guys? Absolutely, of course. That's part of the training, okay? So we're definitely going to do that. Matter of fact, we have an audio file that we're going to have uploaded to the training center here. I can't promise the exact date. I had some technical issues on my side. Let's say hopefully by Tuesday, okay? And what this audio file is was Chris and I went to a trade show, and we just walked up to people and just started asking these questions. When you listen to this audio file, you'll hear these questions. And you know what else you'll hear? The exact response from the distributor, right? And in one case, the manufacturer. So, and you'll see, and you know what you're going to hear in their voice is, please buy from me, please buy from me, please open an account, okay? You're going to love it. So anyway, you do have that coming, so you've got that to look forward to, all right? So, and we'll definitely do some live phone calls also, all right? So don't worry, you'll definitely get to see those.
Just one more thing to jump in and mention there, Todd, is when you're talking to these distributors, you don't want to go out and say, oh yeah, I'm part of 7-figure cycle, I'm part of some training program, because that doesn't make you sound like you're already an established seller. And I also wouldn't say, oh yeah, I've got this amazing tool called Profit Hunter. I mean, that's just going to leave more questions. You're going to be giving them more potential questions than answers if you do something like that. So stick to the script, exactly as like Todd's laid out here, and you'll do much, much better.
Yep. And understand, because I see this question also. So I've answered this like 5 times, but for one more time, you guys understand this. Understand this. When you open an account with a distributor on your own, right, which is phishing, right, that is your distributor. When you upload it to Profit Hunter, you're the only one that has access to that file, all right? It doesn't get shared with anybody else, just your copy of Profit Hunter, okay? So, yeah, don't have any worries about thinking that you're doing research for somebody else. You're absolutely not. That's just for your use. Profit Hunter's crunching that file and showing it just to you, okay? All right, so here's the last point I want to make about this inventory file. Sometimes the person that you're talking to, even a sales rep, may not have a clue about this issue, all right? I've had a lot of distributors, and this is how I've learned how to do this correctly. When I asked for an Excel spreadsheet, they've never heard of the term Excel spreadsheet used in their company. They call it an FTP download file, right? So I would ask for an Excel spreadsheet, and they would say, no, we don't have that. And he wouldn't connect that. It was it's the same thing as the FTP download that I wanted. So this is why I started to use multiple terms and even simply say, or just a list of everything that you guys sell in a format that I can import into my software, my purchase order system. Then the light bulb sometimes goes off. And you know what they end up saying? They'll say something like this. Either, yes, this is how you access it. Yes, let me email you one. Or they'll say, oh, yeah, you have to talk to Joe in the IT, right, in the information technology department. He handles all of that stuff. And then when you finally get to the right person, they will bend over backwards for you, right? Like, would you like that hourly or once a day? Do you want all 4 of our warehouses? Can I set you up with an FTP account to be able to download it, automatically? I mean, it's just unbelievable, the resources that they'll make available to you once you end up talking to the right people. So right off the bat, when you say, well, do you have any sort of file or spreadsheet or, a list that I can download? And if they say no, I go right back to them. I say, well, wait a minute. You just told me you have 15,000 SKUs. What are you guys using? Charcoal and parchment, to do your inventory control? Does somebody have an abacus in the back, sliding beads? I mean, what is it that you guys are using to control your own inventory, And they'll go, oh, yeah, okay, I see. I know what you want now. You need access to the database or whatever, okay? So you just, don't always take, I don't know what that is, or no, we don't, right? Just push back a little bit, and more times than not, you're going to get what you want, all right? So finally, you get to the point where you get to open your account. Now, this is actually, believe it or not, this is really simple, okay? And we've kind of gone over a lot of these issues, but I'd say 80% of a standard account opening form, I can either cross off or just ignore by typing across the top, with a few asterisks in front of it, no terms needed, or just like paying with credit card up front, no terms needed, right? So I don't have to give them my social security number. I don't have to give them my home address, right? I don't have to list the officers of the company. I don't have to list trade references. And here's what to do. If you just give them the business name, address, and phone number and an email, and put that on the top of the form, if they need anything else, guess what they're going to do? They're going to ask for it, okay? They're going to ask you for it. So don't vomit all of your information out all at once. Let them come back to you and nibble for what they really need, right? And I'll ask them sometimes. They'll say, well, can we get the name of the home address of the officer of the corporation? And don't just voluntarily give it to them. Ask them. Say, I say probably, but let me ask you this: why do you need it? Why do you need it? Can we have the name and address and phone number and account number of any other, trade representatives you might have? So sure, I can do that, but why do you need it? And if they say to me, well, it's, part of our standard procedure for opening an account with terms, you're like, oh, well, there you go. I'm not asking for terms, right? And I'll tell you one thing I've never, ever, ever, ever given a distributor or manufacturer is my social security number, right? The only reason they need your social security number is if there's a personal guarantee involved, which is something I've also never given to a distributor or manufacturer ever. And I always ask them the same thing when they ask for a personal guarantee. So if I was General Motors, if I was the CEO of General Motors, you're going to ask me for a personal guarantee? And they're like, well, of course not. I said, then I'm insulted you would ask me. I'm not giving you a personal guarantee. This is a business transaction. You either want to do business with my company or you don't. So, and again, we're talking about now 1% of the instances. So I don't mean to concern anybody. I'm trying to make the point that you always ask why they need something, only give them what you're comfortable with, and you be in control because they want to open that account for you, okay? Credit card disputes are generally not a problem, okay? Matter of fact, I can't ever remember having any kind of an issue with any distributor or manufacturer that I was using my credit card with, okay? It's just that you worry about stuff that's not worth worrying about, okay? All right, now, eventually you're going to get the spreadsheet, all right? The inventory list. The inventory list. And understand that the inventory list, none of them are the same. They're different for every single one of these distributors. I have yet to see an identical format to an inventory list, right? But for Profit Hunter, we only need some basic information. We need the UPC code, our cost, and their SKU. And then, of course, they're going to have a title or a description of what that item is. And that's all we need. So all of the other stuff, the other 97 columns that look really, mentally intimidating, ignore them because they mean nothing to you, all right? You just want those 3-4 basic columns of information, okay? And once you have that, what are we doing? We are doing step 2 then at that point. So now we've talked today about identifying the suppliers, right? I've shown you how to find a legitimate trade association. I showed you how to find their member list. I showed you how to find trade shows and how to find the exhibitor list. And guess what? With the trade shows, it can be even 2 years old. It just doesn't matter, right? Or they can be running next week. It just doesn't matter. And I've shown you how with those lists now of names, you can go to these people's websites, get their contact information, contact them, and in the case of manufacturers, find out who they distribute through. And of course, in the case of distributors, you go right to their website and find out, how to contact, and then contact either via email, their contact form, live chat, or pick up. I love picking up the phone, okay? But it can definitely be done through email. Email is even cooler because you can just shoot them that whole list of questions in an email, and then they'll come back with just the answers that you need. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We're going to have in the members area, we've run about an hour right now. We're going to have the audio from the Q&A from last week is up there. A lot of you guys, if you haven't listened to it, take a listen because there's been some really, really good feedback from people that listened to the additional audio Q&A where they picked up stuff that they might miss the first time through, or maybe we didn't specifically touch on, during the actual training. So go through the audio Q&A. We're going to talk about.
Can I chime in with some questions here, Todd?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry to cut you off there. I wanted to circle back here because I've been answering questions in the chat box, and Todd just gives phenomenal information. Love to hear him share the info and the training. And what I usually do is kind of swoop in and say, okay, the majority are getting it, and those that kind of don't, let me see if I can put a finer point on it. So really high level, don't forget the analogy of teach to fish and then give a fish. This is the teaching part. If people are scratching their head and saying, hey, wait a minute, I thought there was a database of suppliers with products already existing. Yes, that absolutely exists. Reason we do it this way is we learned with our test group of students that giving things, the whole supplier database, people don't kind of get out there on their own and really find those suppliers or understand what that really means. That's a critically important piece of this model because you can scale as big as you want at that point. You can go after distributors maybe that you like a particular market. Maybe you're really into board games. Maybe you're really into outdoor stuff, camping gear. Well, maybe we don't have those kind of suppliers in the database. Well, go get them. So this is the 30,000-foot very high view of what you really want to work towards. The teaching part. Is this going to be kind of handheld for you during the process of here's a list of suppliers, go get some products? Yes, absolutely. So that's the whole point behind this is it's also actually what's going on in that buyer's club. That's why we want to share that as well. These aren't magic people that sort of appeared. They're staff members, some of us, that have called and done this exact process. And for your own edification, for your own kind of peace of mind, by the way, the test students that we talked about, the people that have been doing this for the past couple of years with such massive success, they really didn't have the benefit of that existing database of customers. They did this only. They went out and called suppliers. That was really the fundamental basis of the training. So you guys are a leap ahead with that supplier list. So that's what's going on behind the scenes. So a couple notes that people had talked about. Andreas had mentioned, hey, Todd is doing really well. I worked many years as a buyer, and he has good points. So this is a person that does nothing but this kind of job on the other side of the phone and really supports what you're saying, Todd. Let's see. So I'd like to share my opinion and feedback, coming as a little bit late to the game in the entrepreneurial world. Some of you guys know my story, but I was a sales manager. So I managed teams of salespeople doing these kind of things for years in the corporate world before I became an entrepreneur and went online. It was very funny. My whole job was to try to sell stuff to people. I needed people to buy my things. So I had to convince them as a salesperson why my stuff was great. I needed to get their money for my products. We're flipping the script here. What we're doing is saying the opposite. I need you to tell me how I can buy your stuff. I want to give you money for a list of your products because I want to buy them. And it is interesting. That is sometimes harder than it should be. As a salesperson, I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. My whole job, and I was paid pretty well to try to convince people to buy my stuff in exchange for dollars. I thought, when I reverse this thing, it's going to be great. If I come walking in saying, listen, I have a few $100, I want to buy your stuff, please. And when anybody goes, well, I thought to myself, what on earth is going on? I just want to buy your stuff. I want to buy it, and I want to sell it. I want to make a profit. Your entire business, distributor, a wholesaler, is selling stuff to people. Why can we not make that work? So, to keep things easy for you, and if you're feeling a little bit, well, that's a little bit shady or I'm misrepresenting myself, fair enough. Totally understand that. Some people do the fake it till you make it, understand, and everyone's fine with that. If you don't feel that way and say, ugh, I don't want to misrepresent myself, fine. Keep it simple. Ask them that question. I want to buy your products. And if you keep asking even that one question, usually it kind of shakes people free, like, oh, right, yeah, okay, well, and then you can kind of get to the bottom of what the discussion is. That's all we're doing. There's no more or no less to this process. They are a wholesaler, distributor, whatever. Those terms are interchangeable in this case. They have a whole bunch of things. Their entire job is to sell stuff. That's it. They all day deal with suppliers. They deal, retailers. They deal with people like you and me, doing those frontline phone people that we're talking to. Their career, quite literally at this moment, is to take phone calls from people saying, hey, can I buy your stuff? So they've got a process too. They've got questions they have to ask. They've got information they need. So it's not gatekeeping as much as it is really, they've got to go. They're doing their 9-to-5 thing, just like maybe you're doing in your job. So if we look at it through that prism of they're just people doing their job, if you have a conversation with them and try to get to the bottom of that and weed out those stumbling blocks, that for me helped me a whole bunch early on. Okay, so that hopefully will help you guys a little bit. Someone else asked, what if maybe we don't buy from those suppliers, and what if we go through this process and get the list and we never buy anything from them? Business is not personal. That happens all the time as well. We are under no obligation to buy things from them. This is simply a business transaction. You have stuff, I want to buy stuff. There is nothing more to it. Now, we get worked up, and the human part of us, our brain kind of gets crazy, and we get nervous, and we get anxious, and we think about this and think about that, and try to sort of convince ourselves why it's not going to work, or all these obstacles we put in our way. The reality is, you have stuff, I want to buy stuff. There is nothing else to it. So again, that's a little bit of backstory. That's what's going on behind the scenes with our supplier database that you will have access to. But the end game is for you to learn this process so you can go out there and just absolutely crush your business. All right. So back to you, Todd. You can have the floor again.
Just to add one thing in there before give it back to Todd. One thing that I've seen a lot in the question and answer box here is it seems like some people have a little bit of a mindset block. Perhaps you've got to remember that you need it when you're talking to suppliers, wholesalers. You need to have an abundance mindset. There are thousands of wholesalers out there. So, look, if one guy is giving you a hard time or for whatever reason it's just not working out, doesn't matter. Move on to the next one. Don't have a scarcity mindset. I know that when I got started selling e-commerce physical products online, it was 2000 and it was 2009 at that point, and I was selling household furnishings in one business and industrial equipment in another business. So I literally had just a handful of suppliers in each of those businesses, and if I didn't get one of them, it was a big deal. So I was like worried about that. I was like, oh my God, if I don't get this guy, then I'm going to be missing like 1/4 of all the different industrial equipment in my niche that's out there, kind of thing. So I was stressing out about it. But with this model here, it doesn't matter at all, because you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of suppliers out there, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of products, and you're not like boxed into just one niche or anything like that. Okay, so make sure that you have the abundance mindset when you're dealing with these suppliers. And the other thing I want you to remember is that as long as you do what we're telling you here, you will succeed with this. Okay, we had hundreds of people who came through with us last year earning millions of dollars collectively, $125 million from 517 students. That was the exact number. So as long as you just keep moving forward, baby steps, little by little, keep moving forward, you will succeed with this as well, because a lot of other people from all corners of the world have done it. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. So they were just a couple of things I wanted to throw in there. Todd, we've got a bunch of questions that we've been flagging. Maybe we should start going through those now.
No, I agree. We're running a little long, so let's go ahead and hit the Q&A. Who's got the questions ready?
I can answer the questions, Aiden, if you want to. I can ask, and Todd, you can field them, or I can field them if you want to do it that way.
Yeah,
sure.
Let's go.
Okay, this one's easy. It had been hit before. We'll do it one more time. Will the suppliers that you find be in the database, or are they only visible to the person who found them? In the Profit Hunter tool, if you find a supplier, you start working with them, that is your supplier only. No one else sees that. That is absolutely down under lock and key. You're not doing research for anybody else. This model has the database of suppliers that everybody's going to be able to use, and that's more the point. When you find yours, they are yours and yours only. Let's see. Someone had asked, I have an Amazon USA account and I sell some private label products. Is it okay to use that account? Sure. We talk about that as well. If someone's already doing a different version of Amazon with some private label products or something like that, this can absolutely run in parallel. You're a third-party seller on Amazon, whether that's private label products or buy box products. That's either way. It doesn't matter. Those things work. Someone asks about, what's your opinion about seller names? This one comes up now and then, and this is one of those things we don't want to get too far into the weeds. If people, one note, don't get too tied up about these things, seller names and business names and product names and this kind of stuff. What's your opinion, Todd, on what should people use for a seller name on Amazon? Kind of we talk about an umbrella sort of name.
Yeah, the most generic thing possible. I mean, but the bottom line is it's something that seriously doesn't matter. I have seen seller names that were complete garbage. JI, products. It's like, okay, I don't even know what that means, and it doesn't matter, right? Because the buyer, he's blind to it 99% of the time. They're just hitting add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. I would. It would be kind of funny to actually make your seller name add to cart and see if that's available. But I'm telling you, it doesn't matter.
Guido would ask a good question related to the Profit Hunter software. Again, should we be using that first in order to see what the items are that are profitable before we contact the suppliers? The opposite of that. What we want to do is, like Todd mentioned, all those different examples, and Aiden mentioned it as well, there are thousands upon thousands of suppliers, and the number, I think, is about 500 million products, SKUs, if you will, on Amazon. The vast majority are branded existing products sold through distributors. All we're doing is contacting some of these wholesalers, and a wholesaler doesn't have all of the things. They just have 5, 10, 50,000 of those. And usually they're geared more towards a particular market or vertical. Maybe it's automotive, maybe it's pet, maybe it's baby. And so they tend to deal with manufacturers of similar types products. It's rare that you're going to we sell tires and baby bibs. That just doesn't kind of jive. Most of the time, a wholesaler is going to be related to a particular market. So what we're doing is we're trying to secure those lists to then take those products to run that supplier spreadsheet on your own of your own supplier that only you can see through that Profit Hunter software. Okay? Again, that's the beginning behind the scenes of what actually is happening with that tool. Of course, as we said, you guys will get your hands on the supplier database that's doing that stuff for you. But again, that's the whole give somebody a bicycle and give a basic understanding of what's going on. We're doing the same thing. So you know behind the scenes when I'm pushing buttons and pulling levers, what the heck's going on here? That's what's going on there. So that's the whole point of this. Someone asks, and it comes up often, email versus calling. Good question. Should I email suppliers or should I call? Calling is always preferred just because it's just an efficiency thing. It's just faster. If someone's really uncomfortable on the phone, you can email. But you know how email works. You know how you run your inbox for your email. It may sit there for a day or two or three until that distributor then circles around and says, okay, I'm going to reach out to this person. All right, well, then you read it. Maybe it's another question. So you say, okay, and you respond to them a day or two later. And then they respond to you. Most of that could be done in about a 10-minute phone call. So it's just a time saver. Can you do both? Sure. People often ask, some of these suppliers have an MOQ, a minimum order quantity? Some do, some don't. It depends, and that's just the question that you can get to and ask them. And the language for that is pretty straightforward. When someone says, what are the order quantities you're going to be buying? We don't exactly know because we're not sure what things are really good sellers. We are in e-commerce. We sell a bunch of different things. Very hard for us to tell with our marketing and our efforts what's going to be profitable. So we want to get a sheet of all the products because we want to buy as much stuff from you as we can. That is on point, 100% truthful. It is funny because sometimes you'll call a supplier and they'll say, you want all of our SKUs? Yes, I do. Well, okay, well, great. Some people are excited because they're smart and they realize, oh, this person's going to try to sell a lot of things. Yes, that's exactly what we want to have happen. If someone's trying to restrict that, there's a reason for it. Todd mentioned before, there's a reason. Someone screwed something up in the past, or it didn't, they're just not understanding the process, or there's a lot of reasons why they don't. I don't really care about that. I just want to find out the person that's got the list because we want to sell a lot of things. We've got a proprietary process. We do different types of marketing in different places and different times of the season, and different products are wanted in different demands. So yeah, give me your whole list. It's easy as that. Let's say, what else have we got here? Someone asks, surely most of these other people are already selling on Amazon. Maybe, maybe not. What we don't ever want to do is, as Aiden mentioned in a scarcity mindset, we never want to pre-qualify those things. And even if some of those things are sold on Amazon, you remember the examples, maybe there's 1, 2, 3, 4 other people selling it. Who cares? That product rotates. The buy box rotates. You can share that. If there's an abundance on Amazon, we talk about it time and time again. E-commerce is set to double or triple yet again in the next double in the next 3 years. That to the trillions of dollars. The opportunity is staggering. So don't limit yourself in your thinking. Don't limit yourself before you even get out of the gates. Let's see. Yeah, and Lance hits it. Makes a lot of sense. A sales call would be tough, but we are the customer. Exactly. That's what I kind of started this Q&A session with. All we're doing here is trying to buy their stuff. It is that easy. It's that easy and it's that hard, but it's that easy. If we keep that in mind, that's the good news there. If we get kind of flustered and, oh my goodness, you have money and you want to buy their stuff. That's all we're doing. Okay? Anything else you see in there for questions, Todd?
Yeah, I want to cover this issue that I've seen come up a bunch of times where they're asking the same thing in different ways. Do we bring up that we're going to sell on Amazon? Do we ask them if they're selling on Amazon? What if the distributor is selling some products on Amazon? That kind of thing. And the bottom line is, all you guys want is an inventory file from them, okay? Because Profit Hunter is going to pluck out anything that's being sold by Amazon, even if it's coming directly from the manufacturer or the distributor. It doesn't matter. If Amazon's selling it, Profit Hunter is going to cull it out anyway. And if there's nothing profitable on that list, because let's say they're already dealing with thousands and thousands of Amazon sellers, or maybe they're selling it themselves, which would be really unusual as a distributor. But let's say all of that situation existed. Profit Hunter will just come back and say, oh, you know what? There's just nothing on this list that you should buy. And what's my response to that? So what? Right? Who cares? This is the model. You got the list sucked, right? So you move on to the next list, the next distributor. Who cares? So we don't even bring this stuff up in the beginning because it's just too easy to get the list and run it through Profit Hunter and find out yourself without, doing all of those deep dives that don't mean a thing, right? You're just confusing the whole situation. The only thing you want to know is are there profitable products I can buy from this distributor and then sell on Amazon. So let's say at some point in time, they ask you, well, are you an Amazon seller? All right. I turn back and I just ask them, why did you ask me that? Or if I was, does that matter? I mean, I want to understand where they're coming from. Okay. And you have to understand, sometimes the answer is going to be, we don't want any more Amazon sellers. Fine. Whatever. No problem. But a lot of times the reason they're asking that is because of map, okay? They need to be able to know what your seller name is, because if they get a complaint from a manufacturer that somebody's selling below map, they need to be able to trace it back to you, all right? And then they'll send you an email and say, will you please raise your 18 cents under map? Will you please raise your price up to map, or we're not going to be able to sell this product to you anymore. All right, so you can't be all paranoid about when they start asking about those kinds of things. Understand why they're asking. But I generally ask them, well, why do you want to know that? And if they say, well, because of map requirements, we're going to have to monitor and this and that. And, oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll sell on Amazon, right? Or when they do ask questions along the lines of, well, what kind of business are you in? Like I said before, I say, we're online distributors. So what's the definition of online distribution? Somebody that sells stuff, guess where? Wait for it, online. Does that mean Amazon? Not necessarily, right? So if they specifically ask me, well, are you going to sell these products on Amazon? My question right back to them is, well, I'm not sure. Let me ask you this. Is there a problem with me selling stuff on Amazon if that's where we decide to sell it? And then you're going to find out what the situation is. They're going to basically say, well, it's our position that we're not accepting accounts from people that are strictly selling on Amazon. So then I'll say, well, what do you mean by strictly? You're trying to figure out what their real problem is. All right, what's their real problem? And usually 9 times out of 10, it comes down to map violators. They're sick and tired of chasing down map violators. So
and
what
map
we
is
do,
for reference, to make sure you're clear on that, the minimum advertised pricing, just so people know what that is.
Yeah, minimum advertised price. It's the price you can't sell below. So a lot of times, when map comes up, when they mention it, I get very proactive, and I'll say things like, you know what? We absolutely love map. Matter of fact, if we see map violators, how do we turn them in? How can we alert you to people violating map? What's the easiest way for you to deal with that if we see it? We let them know we're all about brand integrity. We're all about being on the good guys team. We have no intentions of rocking the boat. We're here to help. Now, think about that for a second. If you're one of these battle-worn distributors who have chased down countless scores of Amazon seller scumbags who are constantly violating MAP, and you hear what I just said, we're the good guys, we're on your side, how can we turn these guys in, how can we help you? Are you refreshed at all to hear that? Does that actually make you feel good, right? See, if you figure out where their pain point is and you become the solution, not another headache, you're going to be able to develop relationships, all right, that are going to last for a long, long time and are going to make you. But it all starts here. with getting your first account set up.
We've had quite a few questions just about Profit Hunter, and you're going to be getting access to Profit Hunter to be able to start using that with your own supplier files next week, actually. So next week you're going to be able to use that and start. If you've already got files from your suppliers, you're going to be able to start filtering through them. So that's something fun to look forward to. I think you're going to love it. As we've said so many times, it's a complete game changer in this business model. So yeah, that's to look forward to next week. Have we got any other last minute questions here that we haven't taken, guys? I think most of the big ones have been taken.
I think what we'll do is we'll circle back as we did last time, and if there's high level stuff, we can certainly do another audio file to make sure that we're getting everybody answered. I think we answered the vast majority, but if there's anything that snuck by, we'll be sure to address it.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this session. Thanks for being here with us. Remember, we'll get this replay up in the members area probably in the next few hours, and we'll have a summary document coming probably within the next 48 hours, I would say. They take a while to put together because, as you would have seen, they are quite in-depth, and we will have more training to answer any more questions that you may have as well. So let me just check a couple of things behind the scenes here, and then we are going to close this off. It looks like we are good to go. All right, guys, thank you so much. Hang on. I'm just checking some last minute questions that are flying in. Someone was asking about this one here, the 4 things, the things that you need to ask the supplier for. So do you have any sort of file, spreadsheet? That was one of the things and it has to show everything you sell, the cost, your SKU, and quantity. So they're the 4 things that you're looking for: the products that are being sold, the cost, the SKU, and the quantity available. Okay. What else have we got here? Okay, so a few people were saying, well, what are the action items this week? We're going to put them in the email that we're going to send out with the replay, and we're also going to put them below the training replay in the members area. So you'll have the action items in a few hours' time. If you just check back in the members area, you'll be able to get them. Okay?